It's the third winter of Russia's war on Ukraine and possibly the most decisive one. Usually winters bring snow and frost, but this time it's also bringing Donald Trump. He has promised to end the fighting on day one in office. So Russia is punching hard. Overnight, they launched a massive air attack. Some 90 missiles and 100 drones were fired. Military and industrial sites across the country were targeted in Kharkiv, in Donetsk, in Odessa, in Dnipro. It was basically a nationwide attack by Russia. People reported air raid sirens across major cities in Ukraine. They bunkered in subways and shelters as Russian missiles flew overhead. And damages? Ukraine says 79 out of the 91 missiles were shot down. So were 35 of the 100 drones. The remaining hit Ukraine's energy infrastructure. We are mainly talking about power plants. They were hit. If these plants go offline, Ukraine will not have electricity, and that too as winter sets in. No home heating, no lighting, no warm water. The idea behind these strikes is to break Ukraine's morale. In fact, some power plants have reported damages from these Russian strikes. It has left 1 million Ukrainians without power. That's almost 3% of their population. It is close to 0 degrees Celsius in Ukraine today. Imagine 1 million people without power in such cold. And it will only get worse from here. The cold, at least. Now, this strategy is not new. Russia did the same during previous winters as well. They targeted Ukraine's power plants. But this time, two things are different. One, this winter leads to Donald Trump's inauguration. And two, Russia has a firm upper hand. Let's take a closer look at these factors. Trump has nominated a special envoy for Russia and Ukraine. He's a retired general named Keith Kellogg. And what's his stance on the war? A bit more nuanced than Donald Trump. Kellogg says aid should be conditional on talks. Meaning if Ukraine wants weapons, they must join the peace talks. Now let's assume that they do, but Russia refuses. Then what happens? Then Kellogg says the US should give aid to Ukraine. So it's a slightly different position from Donald Trump's, but chances are Putin will take it. Anything other than Joe Biden's unconditional support is a win for Russia. Which brings us to the second factor. Russia is making huge gains on the ground, which is very different from last year. In 2023, Russia captured just 460 square kilometers of Ukrainian land. 460. It was virtually a stalemate. And this year, Russia has captured around 2,700 square kilometers, 2,700 square kilometers. This is 6 times more than last year. Now put these two factors together. Russia capturing more land and Trump returning to the White House. It tells you why Joe Biden and Ukraine are getting desperate. Earlier this month, Biden took a major step. He allowed Ukraine to use American missiles to strike inside Russia. Zelensky was clearly pumped about it. He launched a missile volley almost immediately. But Vladimir Putin one-upped him. He fired an intermediate-range ballistic missile at Ukraine, a nuclear-capable weapon, and he is not done yet. Putin says the next target could be Ukraine's decision-making centers.
As has already been said, we will respond to the ongoing strikes on Russian territory by Western-made long-range missiles, including by possibly continuing to test the Orshnik in combat conditions, as was done on November 21st. At present, the Ministry of Defense and the General Staff of the Russian Army are selecting targets to hit on Ukrainian territory. These could be military facilities, defense industry enterprises, or decision-making centers in Kyiv.
Basically, government buildings. That's what Russians will target, he says. Most of them are located in the capital, Kyiv. Now, Russia has not attacked such buildings yet in this war, but Putin says they could be targeted going forward. It's a clear warning against escalation. But will Zelensky listen to him? He's evidently worried about the missile attacks because Ukraine's air defenses are weak. They can shoot down drones and short-range projectiles, but ballistic missiles, Ukraine is helpless against them.
Mark Rutte and I discussed the available response capabilities, the necessary strengthening of Ukraine's air defense. I named the specific air defense systems that we need, which can work. The recent authorization for long-range strikes on military facilities in Russia helped. But the pressure on Russia must be maintained and increased at different levels, so that Russia feels what war is.
Joe Biden shares these concerns, but he's running out of ways to help. He's already lifted the ban on Western long-range missiles so Ukraine can fire them on Russia. Biden has also given Kyiv controversial landmines. What more can he do? Well, reports say that he is preparing another military aid package. This one is worth around $725 million. We're talking about attack drones, Stinger missiles, HIMARS rocket systems and guided rockets. All of this is coming from the US military stockpile. It's part of a package already authorized by the US Congress. All Biden needs to do is sign it. He's also asking Ukraine to recruit more soldiers. Right now, only men over 25 years of age are fighting in this war. Washington says reduce that to 18. All men over 18 should be fighting this war. It clearly shows that Ukraine is outmanned in this fight. European countries are also making moves. Yesterday, leaders from the Nordic, the Baltic and Poland met in Sweden. They promised to increase military aid for Ukraine. But Putin has a plan for them too. Europe has recently reported a string of strange incidents, parcel bombs, flight threats, cyber attacks and sabotage. Experts believe that Russia could be behind them. Some Western allies are asking for a strong response, like Germany. Germany says that Russia is launching hybrid attacks, and this could trigger NATO's self-defense clause. Remember, that's the pillar of NATO. What does the clause say? If one country is attacked, all of them will respond together. Germany says that Russia's hybrid attacks and sabotage should trigger the NATO clause. We haven't heard from other NATO members yet, but frankly, it's a tall ask. Is NATO really going to attack Russia over broken internet cables or over a cyber attack on airports? It sounds a bit far-fetched. More so since Donald Trump is now taking charge. He is famously not a fan of NATO. If Trump keeps his word, this could be the last winter of fighting. It's truly a desperate period for Ukraine. Not only are they being forced to the negotiating table, they are being forced at their weakest moment.